The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Andre Mayette, your podcast host. Big thanks to Luke and the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. Big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another action-packed, fun-filled show. Today we talk to Nick Casbarro, who is a very cool guy building his own world, his own science fiction world, and he's all in on this world that he's built, this expansive world. And we have a great conversation, talking to a guy that has a singular focus into what he wants to achieve in this life is a rarity. People are always, especially artistic types, are usually always all over the place, kind of doing this, doing that. Finishing a project for someone who's into the artistic mindset is always a difficult task. But not only did Nick do that, he continues to do that, and he continues to be, singularly narrowed in on this creation he's made of the sci-fi universe. And it's very cool. It's very nice and kind of refreshing because with the artistic crowd, you kind of meet people, and we're all. I don't make generalizations. I guess I kind of am, but artistic types are usually generally pretty flighty. Not that always that focused on the task at hand, but sometimes you meet somebody like Nick who really has is just motivated, just insanely motivated about his passion about his project, and that passion kind of rubs off a little, and to meet someone that has such a drive and such a focus and is all in on his product, and especially just not wanting to expand beyond the initial product, which is something that is expansive in itself, and that's gonna, from what our conversation brings out, there's a lot to be had with it. So it was a very cool conversation, very great guy, and you're going to hear that very, very soon. Things on the home front are going good. Life's good, busy. Summer's a bit hot, very, very hot. In my area, they've actually put some restrictions in place, not allowing people to go into the woods or to go on trails. And I think you can go to camp. You can't really go camping in the woods. You can't do anything unless, I think it's like regular campgrounds, like if it's a official campground. I'm doing finger quotes, you can't see them. But I believe you're allowed to walk into the woods and go to those places because they're kind of monitored by people. But I believe fires, there's no fires, nothing. You can't even go on the trails, like the walking trails or the hiking trails. It's been a bit challenging. I mean, right by my house is a lovely trail that I like to go on my bike to work out on sometimes. Sometimes it's nice to just work out in the basement and do the cardio on the trail. However, because of the ban, I am no longer able to do that. But it has actually enabled me to find some road trails. Take the road. I'm careful, and there's some roads that are less traveled than others in my area, so I can kind of still get a bit of a bike ride in when I need to. But I do miss that trail. It was nice. It was kind of going out along the water. You could see the animals. You see deer every once in a while, a lot of birds. A cat I saw the other day. But now that is closed off until this ban is lifted. Hopefully we get some rain and that happens. Otherwise, I think they said October 15th, so quite a ways away. But as of the recording of this, no rain in sight. It's been dry, a hot, dry summer, and so be careful out there. There's a lot of people whining online, bitching, complaining that government overreach and they should be able to walk into the woods and do whatever. And every time something like this happens and people immediately start decrying their freedoms, I'm curious as to how many of them are actually people that go into the woods. Many of the people I see complaining online are people that I would not expect to be campers, hikers, people that go in the woods that often. But sometimes I feel like some people are just looking for a fight. No matter what it is, no matter how it is, whenever something like this comes up, they immediately become the world's greatest campers, and they camp all the time. Or at least they're upset now that they can't. They didn't do it when they could, but now they can't. They're very upset about it. And look, no one's more upset about it than the people that are out there, camping on the weekends, doing the thing. I mean, I myself do partake in the paths and the trails, and now I can't go on them, but I understand it's for the better. I mean, you talk to the people that are being surrounded by wildfires. That's homes are in danger right now because there are a few in the area, not right in my direct area, but in the Halifax area. And yeah, it's scary. So those are the people that really are going to struggle and are really going to hurt from the wildfire situation, not the fact you can't walk in the woods for a few weeks. So stop bitching, stop complaining, and, do your part. Just, find something else to do, physical activity, another way to fill your time. There's lots of stuff out there. And it sucks you can't do it with nature, but it's only for a limited time. So, hey, let's all just enjoy our lives and look out for each other and be kind. Be kind. It's important to be kind. All right, so here is my conversation with Nick Casbarro. Super great conversation, super cool guy doing some super cool things. So tune in to this conversation with Nick Casbarro.
From Florida. I live down in West Palm right now.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, what's the weather like there today?
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Florida's nice.
it's
I've been to Florida a couple times, and mostly just to go to on our honeymoon. We went to Disney and like Universal Studios and stuff like that.
oh
And
nice.
we went back for the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios one time as well, which is awesome. I really liked it.
Yeah, my
Um,
my my wife and I like to do the Halloween Horror Nights. They
yeah.
they had this the last time we went, Rob Zombie had a whole section of the park.
Oh, what?
It
That
was
sounds
all
amazing.
Rob Zombie related stuff, which was awesome to see.
That's
I'm a big fan of his movies and his music.
yeah.
And so they have like people playing the music, they have everything related to the movies, and it's just that
That
was
is
cool.
that is cool. That's super cool. Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. When we went, it was like Halloween 4, I think, is one of the big ones. They had like a Chucky and Killer Clowns from Outer Space for like the outside, like the
Yes.
people wandering around kind of doing that thing. So that was really cool. It was really fun. Yeah, it was a blast. So my cat's trying to get out. I think he's figuring it out. There he goes. I had another interview with somewhere that happened too, where he always makes a mild appearance when he's trapped in the room.
That's pretty funny.
Cool, cool. So where are you from originally?
Originally from Rhode Island.
Ah, right on. Well, not
Yeah.
too far from me. I'm in Nova Scotia, so
Oh, okay.
in Canada, just a little further up the coast. But
Yeah.
wow, cool. Were comics always a part of your upbringing? Were you always a comic fan?
It's funny. Not really.
Yeah.
Which is usually kind of surprising to hear.
Not necessarily. Some
Have,
people come to it later in life. I've talked to people that have came to it when they were teenagers or came to it like when they were like in college or something. So,
yeah. I was more of the person who was always trying to draw my own comics.
hmm
Um, I mean, even when it comes to anything, like I really I don't watch a whole lot of sports. Like I would rather play sports
hmm
and be involved, but I've never been much of a watcher. I'm more of a doer. So I've had a lot of fun. I feel like I'm kind of experiencing a little bit of like a comic renaissance now
hmm
that I'm in it. So now I am getting out there, especially at these conventions and trying to see what else is out there and essentially what I've missed out on.
Yeah.
And it's always good for, a little inspiration to see what some people are doing. Um, not so much to try and copy them, but to see what hasn't been done,
Hmm.
because that's kind of I want to put something unique out there,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with Vitalerium.
That's cool. I'm glad you pronounced it because I was gonna ask you because just getting the script I was like or getting the issues you sent I was like it's either Vita or Vita. I better hope he can say it first. Very well. Was sci-fi a big part of your childhood then? Like, what was your
Definitely,
that was it? Okay. So what was
definitely.
your inroad to that?
Um, Probably my very first inroad probably
hmm
was Star Wars. My father had like the original three VHS uh, uh, episodes, and we used to watch those all the time. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I kind of as far as like a literature standpoint, I kind of grounded myself in like the dystopian classics.
hmm
I really loved like Aldous Huxley and Orwell's work, and um, I really liked like Frank Herbert.
Hmm.
Just the whole Dune series, that was a huge inspiration for me. Isaac Asimov in his short stories, I loved his short stories. And then things like The Foundation, and um, so that was kind of my literature exposure to sci-fi literature. And then, when it came to like cinema and video games, I mean, I eat up everything. Um, Going back, I mean, some of my favorites back in the day were like Fifth Element
Nice.
and
Good choice.
Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the original Blade Runner,
Hmm.
and now Blade Runner 2049 is, that was an awesome kind of reboot of that series.
I have
That
a controversial opinion of that movie. I think it's better than the original, but I know a lot of people will look at me funny if I say it. But I don't know, man.
no,
I thought 2049 like killed it. The original was great. I mean, it wasn't made in a vacuum. It created some pretty amazing, cool visuals and effects and all that. But I feel like as far as like a more engaging story that fills the time a little better, I thought 2049 really nailed it. And
and
plus,
I agree. The first one is kind of a little slow because you're being kind of slowly, I guess, brought into this future world, and you're
mhm.
following, I mean, Harrison Ford's character is interesting, and
Oh yeah.
but there's like a lot of conversation, and it's kind of like some of the kind of deeper philosophical themes are what I feel like is really focused on in some of those conversations
Yeah, which they should
between
be. I mean,
AI.
the concept of that and what is life and what does it mean to be alive, regardless of your origins, is is a deep, interesting way. And I mean, I feel like Villeneuve's version, the 2049 one. I mean, I really like that guy anyway. Like as a director, I really dug his Dune movies, the new ones. Plus, he's
Yeah.
Canadian, so I got to support that. But he's French Canadian, but still Canadian. But it's cool. It's interesting to me that you sort of glommed onto dystopia. Like, what is the pull for that for you? Like, why do you like dystopian fiction more than?
Oh, because I think, every utopia is truly a dystopia once you kind of lift up the hood and see what's going on.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't think I think utopia for humans is a concept that's unreachable. We're fallible creatures,
Mhm.
We can just do the best we can
Mhm.
and try to make sure that we don't open the doors to basically shooting ourselves in the foot with
Yeah,
the way we kind of progress things. Because I mean, progress is it's inevitable, right? But we can just as easily progress into a burning building as we can into greener pastures.
yeah. Well, that's an interesting
So,
way to look at it.
and I feel sci-fi. There's a lot of value to it for that.
Mm.
I mean, we're able to kind of hone in on different ways we could screw it up. And maybe
Oh,
that's why
yeah.
I've always liked the dystopian classics because there are some lessons involved, and they're not like the overt stuff is I feel like is really like it's cringy. It's kind of hard to watch. It's hard
Mm.
to listen to, hard to get through
Mhm.
because you just feel like you're being preached to. But if you're just focusing on like nonpartisan stuff, none of that, you're just focusing on the human condition. I feel like a lot can be gained from that. And if you're open to paying attention to it, we can maybe hopefully avoid some of these pitfalls as we continue to progress.
For sure. Well, most dystopians, like if you look historically, like the ones that were written, you mentioned 1984, of course, The Handmaid's Tale, like which came later, but like all these ones, they always kind of come right around the crux of some big cultural shift. Usually something to do, like obviously, like 1984, Animal Farm, obviously was playing a lot on stuff going on with the wars and that sort of stuff.
Right.
So like kind of playing on what we're afraid of as a society and what's going on at the time. I mean, almost every dystopian world kind of revolves around some kind of shadowy government that's operating however they want, and the rest of us are just sort of caught up into it. So that sort of fear of fascism and what it brings to the average person. I mean, they kind of play into that depending on which particular dystopia you're into. But even just the ones where it's like Mad Max or something, where the world has just gone to hell and we're all just trying to carve a little piece of it out for ourselves. Like it just kind of seems like it boils down to the human thing. Like we all just want a little bit of life for ourselves. So,
Right.
when the world's harder and more in a world where we all have to fight to just survive or to get food or gasoline or whatever it is we need, when they enhance that up, it always, I guess it kind of boils things down to me like really primitive human needs, and then when you take the option to get those easily away, I mean, what do we turn into? Like, I think the road is probably one of the most disturbingly most accurate versions of what would happen if the world crumbled, how we'd all treat each other, what things would be like. And that's why it's such a scary book because you're like, oh God, this seems way too real. Like there's very little
Yeah.
hope here. So,
And it's not just the idea of like, it's not only government that
hmm.
could
Oh
lead to
yeah,
us
no, yeah.
screwing it up. And so like
Aliens, whatever.
and well, maybe we'll talk about that a little later. But
Sure.
I in the series, because the comic books are actually an adaptation of the novel that I wrote.
Yes, yes, I did see that.
And the novel is called Vitalerium Descent into the Void. It's one of seven that I have planned with my publisher now.
Hmm.
And the probably around the third book, we're going to start exploring some of the other human colonized planets. And each one is going to have its own kind of social and government structure. And for instance, one of the planets that we're going to go and explore is called Ventura. And Ventura is the third colonized planet, Earth being the first, Mars being the second, and then Ventura. And it is primarily owned by two mega corporations, the
Hmm.
Syriax Corporation and Grazix Industries. And they own, 52 and 48% of the planet respectively. And you get to basically see what that looks like under basically pure corporatocracy.
Hmm.
And so it's not I wanted to explore a lot of different ways that, societies can go and show basically the kind of the ups and the downs of each, and just how each one is basically leading to strange new conditions
Hmm.
for the inhabitants of that planet. So
That's
for the first book, we're definitely exploring that kind of, that more classical fascist kind of dictator type government.
hmm.
Um, it's kind of like kind of a hybrid authoritarian regime.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely focused on military. The military and the police are one and the same on the planet. They're called the Coalition Guardsmen,
Hmm.
and they are ruthless in a lot of ways, and they are definitely not held accountable for any of the things that they do. And yet, I also try and show kind of the other side of the coin where there are some good people who are just in a bad structure, and they just have a job and they're just trying to do a good job and, you know, live their life. And so I try and show, I guess, the lack of black and white
Hmm.
in elements of the book as well.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. Yeah, it's I only read the graphic novel. I'm interested to read the book, but the first two issues are great. Super fun.
Well,
It
thank
sounds like
you.
a well-lived in world, and I'm glad that you referenced The Fifth Element because that's something that played in. I thought of while reading it. It kind of felt like that fun, lived-in, world. But I have to commend you. Your website is probably one of the most of all these like projects I've worked on with indie creators that are working on stuff or interviewed rather. I haven't seen such a rich wealth of knowledge in one space. Like you have so much stuff on your site that kind of ties into the story, where you're going, what it is, and it's cool. It reminds me of the old days when, like, as a nerd, and you want to know all about this fantasy thing you discover, you go find the website that has all of this crazy info. Now it's like hardly anything. There's like go read the book, but it's almost like an appendage to what you're doing, like an extra bit where you can learn more as you go along, which I think is really cool because you don't really see that anymore. That much thought
Right.
and attention put into stuff. It reminds me a bit of, and this is maybe a esoteric reference, but do you remember like with Richard Kelly? He did the movie Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah.
So he
Yeah.
made a movie called Southland Tales after that, which was had middling to negative reviews, but it was kind of a sort of grand scale epic thing, and part of it was like he had these different like things that all connect. So there was the movie, plus a graphic novel, plus a website, and then it was all supposed to connect in some roundabout way. I don't know how much it actually got finished because I don't know if what his plan was actually came to fruition, but it reminds me a bit of that about how interactive and how much a part of the comic, like it's adding to the world and it's neat. It just gives your fans more effort to engage, which is cool.
And that's what I wanted. And perhaps, some of that came from a nostalgic
Hmm.
like standpoint. Like I used to like to dive deep into some
Hmm.
of the things that I was getting into. Um, and I wanted to give some people I wanted to give everyone, I guess, just content they could really sink their teeth into.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm kind of okay with building this slowly. Not too slowly. I don't want people to kind of forget about it along the way as I'm putting out more content, but
Hmm.
I'm putting it out in a way that I know that the content I'm putting out is good, solid content, like the best I could possibly make it before it actually reaches everyone else, so that it's just quality. I that's my main focus right now. It's really not so much about making money; it's about building something, and I have had more fun than I can tell you building this. The other thing that I guess the other reason why I really wanted to go in depth in a lot of this stuff and make sure there was tons of information out there on it is because I don't plan to stop at just books and comics. Like
Hmm.
this is the foundational level that we're at. We've laid the foundation now. Now I'm building up from here, and I plan to take this into every outlet of media possible.
Nice. Awesome. But when did you like? I know I read a little bit about on your site about where the idea came from, or that it like where the inspiration came from. We were working in the medical field, I believe it was, right? So we're said,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was a burn specialist for a medical device company.
Wow.
And I was basically on a plane like every other day. So it's so is it, when you're on a plane pretty, the majority of the week, it's a
Hmm.
lot of plane time.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of time to waste at first for sure. Like the first 6 months I was doing it, I was just watching Netflix like everyone else on the plane.
Hmm.
And then I just kind of realized like this isn't helping me do anything. Like
No.
I need to I gotta fill this. And I really didn't have a creative outlet. I hadn't had a creative outlet for a very long time
Hmm.
before that. And so, it had kind of it had built up for a very long time. And so when I finally did sit down for the first time and start writing, it just poured out of me.
Nice.
Uh, I think on the first flight, it was technically it was two flights. It was from Miami to California, and then or maybe it was Texas. It was either from Miami to California or Texas, and then from there to Hawaii.
Hmm. Wow.
And by the time I got off the plane in Hawaii, I was basically finishing up chapter four.
Wow.
So that is talk about everything, kind of reaching the boiling point and then boiling over. It just poured out of me. So um, yeah, I really enjoy the creative process. And when I was a kid, when I was in high school, the only college level courses I ever really took were creative writing. And it's funny thinking back on that now because I even then I was like, I'm never going to write a book, but I really like this. It's fun. I don't know what I'll do with it. And then in college, those were my A+ classes.
Hmm.
And then I just kind of fell into the working world for a while and just forgot about it. And I feel like having a creative outlet now, it's, so there was a peg missing somewhere. And this definitely fills that.
Yeah, I
So
feel
it's,
like it's nice for you to hear you say that because I feel like that's what a lot of people are missing. Sometimes like it doesn't need to be writing or drawing or it can be painting, it could be gardening. Like there's all kinds of ways that are some kind of an artistic bent can be fulfilled. But that's why like all this AI stuff and the way things go with it, it's like it kind of like to me it's like it's a key part of the human thing is to be able to create something, be artistic in some way, and that can mean photography, filmmaking, whatever.
right.
Anything that you can express yourself creatively in or through. So it's nice to hear people talk about that because it's a key part of being a human. I think that a lot of people sort of dismiss. They're always like, oh, I can't sing or I can't play or I can't draw or I can't write. It's like, surely of all the creative endeavors in the world, there's something that you could do
Yeah.
that would probably fulfill you in some way that you don't realize that you're missing until you start doing it.
Yeah. So the
Um,
question becomes, what can you do? Or what do you
exactly.
want? Or more importantly, what do you want to do? And then,
Exactly.
but no one starts off like fantastic.
Mm.
My first script or my first manuscript was not complete. Like it went through a lot. I went through 2 rounds of self-editing,
hmm
which was also I also incorporated 2 beta readers into that. And then I brought it to a publisher. I got a publisher, and I went through another 2 rounds of conceptual editing, and then 6 rounds, six of proofreading.
Wow.
Talk like put the period here in the right place. Like
Yeah.
talk about. I almost got tired of reading my own book
Yeah.
like 6 times through. That's after the first two, and that's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot for everyone. I'm kind of a perfectionist in that way, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
figure out what needs to be done until I can get it right. And maybe that's kind of why it worked out.
Yeah. Well, how'd you get into the burn specialist with the medical company? Where did that fall in?
I went to Northeastern University to become a physical therapist. I was in their
hmm
PT program, and it's a 6-year program. You get a doctorate,
hmm
and about 5 years into that program, I realized I don't want to be a PT. So so that was a trying time in terms of what the hell is it I'm going to do,
hmm
and I fought through it. I talked to people. You can't just derive all the answers from yourself. Sometimes you got to find some mentors. And I had talked to a few family friends who had done well in medical devices, and they said, well, you could maybe do this. And so I gave it a shot, and I started working towards that. I ended up getting into medical devices, a year or so after I graduated, and I really found that I could use the sciences that I had learned in a way that was a little bit more engaging for me.
Hmm.
And so it was a little bit more of a dynamic job. You're traveling, you're not in the same place every single day. And it just worked out for me. And then burn is kind of a tough specialty to break into. I had to get extra training while I was at the company. I had this old school doctor. He was a former ABA president. It's the American Burn
hmm
Association, and the company basically had all the people who were getting trained to be burn specialists fly out to Texas, sit in a hotel like conference room with him. And this dude just yelled at us for like a week straight, and then he just beat it into us. And
Wow.
and we and it's tough because the surgeons that you're working with, I mean, they're really saving people. They're doing God's work, man.
Yeah.
They're because the patients they're dealing with, they are sorry about that.
Oh.
Uh, they're so severely injured, and it requires a lot to even just bring them back to baseline. And so, if they're going to work with someone in the medical device world, or they're going to decide that they want to bring you on, you're basically like a consultant, and they need to decide whether or not they want you on their team.
Wow.
And so you need to really be on your game. And I think being challenged like that was, for some reason, really attractive to me.
Hmm.
I tend to like that. I like to do the harder stuff for some reason. It just seems more attractive to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always seen I'm interested by people like that, like the mountain there, so I have to climb it kind of people. Do you always find yourself you're one of those types of people, like even as a kid, like your whole life, you've kind of been looking for a challenge?
Um, I'll say not always,
hmm
not that I've always been looking for it, but when presented with it, I seem to thrive in it.
Okay.
And so and that was something that I learned, like, as I began to grow up and better understand myself, I guess. But now I know myself, so
Hmm.
I know the tough stuff is going to be the stuff that also interests me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
now I gravitate towards it.
Well, that's like most creative types. I feel like the greatest motivation is a deadline, right? So sometimes when you have one, or you give yourself challenges like that you have to fit something, it can really help the creative process in a way because sometimes you can just sit and mire in it too long. So, yeah,
100%.
yeah. Like I remember hearing stories about, what was it? It was like the great painters, like some of the great ones. I can't remember which specific ones, but like there were times when their paintings were done and they'd be hanging in museums. They would still come in and still try to mess with the paintings and add stuff to them. And the museums eventually had to kick them out and be like, "No, you're done. Like it's over." Like like arts. I think I heard a quote that said, "Art's never finished; it's just abandoned." And it just kind of, yeah, which I thought was kind of funny. But kind of true. I mean, obviously, with something like a book or a film, you have a very obvious end, or a finished product like a painting. But like most artists, you kind of like, I do a lot of creative stuff. I write, I draw, I do some comics myself. I do some acting. I play a little bit of music. So, sometimes you always look at what you do or you create, and you're always like, I could have done that better. Why'd I do that? You know what I mean? Like you're never quite. To me anyway, never quite 100%, but just getting the thing done and out the door is like the biggest hurdle. And that's why anytime anybody writes a book, comic, anything, I'm like, you're better than 90% of most, 95% of most creative types to actually get the thing finished and out the door. So that's amazing. Cool. Well,
Thanks, man.
yeah, dude. No, and the comic's really cool. I really dig it. It's, I'm excited to see more of the world. How is so the book you self-published? Or did you went through a publisher?
I have a publisher.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Okay.
they're called Atmosphere Press.
Awesome. And how was the distribution? Like, is it just bookstores everywhere? If
It's
someone
not so you're not going to a lot of indie bookstores will have it.
hmm
Not like usually like Barnes and Noble, they're looking for like they're brick and mortar stores. So the brick and
hmm
mortar stores really need to kind of guard their business
Oh yeah.
nowadays, especially
Yeah.
with Amazon. And so they're looking for like massive online sales data.
hmm
And so being a first time author, being that this only released, as of this past October, I'm not there yet to where every Barnes and Noble is going to have it on the shelf. You may find a few Barnes and
hmm
Nobles that have a few copies on the shelf, but we're the book with books, it's not like unless you're like a 12-time published author.
hmm
It's not like the big bang that you would see in like a movie release or something like
Yeah.
that. It's not the same because the movie gets the big bang and then it kind of teeters off, right?
Yeah.
With books, it's more of like kind of a gradual like slope upward
Yeah.
as long as you're marketing yourself.
Yeah.
I
Which
heard,
you're good
I,
at.
I'm
For-
I'm trying, man. Well, it's funny that's where the sales background kind of comes into
Yeah.
play. I mean, I'm doing I think 20 Comic Cons and book conventions this year.
Perfect.
I just did Tampa Bay Comic Con. It was a blast. It was great getting to interact with people. And now that I've been doing this since October, I'm actually starting to get people who are coming back to the booth, and they're like, "When's book two coming out?" Like book one was, and that's the best feeling.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing better than that. Um, so to everyone who did that, thank you, and to everyone who's kind of enjoying the book out there, I really appreciate the support. Um, and book two is coming soon. So right now we're slated for like early 2026 for
hmm
book two's release, and then the comics we're really ramping up because I've got kind of a good working relationship with my illustrator Francisco Nilo and my colorist Chandran Panusamy, who are both immensely talented.
hmm
At this point, they know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The edits process, the modifications process, it's becoming much much more streamlined. And so right now I'm looking to put out a new comic like every 2 to 3 months.
hmm
So the third episode, which is actually episode 0, that comes out end of this month.
Wow, that's so cool. Well,
Yeah.
how did you find like taking your work and adapting it to a comic? Like, what were your struggles with that, or
Um,
were there any? I guess to not to lead
plenty,
you.
plenty.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I didn't even know how to write a comic script when I
hmm
first said like, "Hey, I'm going to do a comic book." Um, And I had mentioned before, like, I want to bring this into other outlets of media. Well, the next logical step for me was, well, let's make a comic because that'll be, kind of the most reasonable way to bring a pictorial representation of what I'm writing about to life.
Hmm.
Um, so I just kind of said, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to figure out how. That's basically been my process for literally this entire venture, everything. I didn't, um, so I reached out to a friend of a friend who had started this. At one point, he had this comic website that he was building. It was like a pay-per-view or pay-per-click type
Hmm.
of comic website. And I said, hey, I'm looking for artists. I've talked with a couple of them. I don't think it's really what I'm looking for, but I'm really just trying to find the right person. And he said, you have to talk to my friend Fran. And I talked to Fran. I saw his work. His work was great. I He kind of matched my passion for I guess for sci-fi and what he wanted to do. And I was like, I could feel it in the meeting, when you're like, that's my guy. Fran was my guy. And Francisco had worked with Chandran on a couple of different other projects. And so he's the one who introduced me to Chandran. And once again, great guy. And they deliver. It's like they pull it out of my head.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, especially if you're working like if you're working on a creative project with an eye to expand. I'm assuming when you mentioned all media is like film and television is something that's a goal as well. So like
Yeah.
it's easy to it's a little easier to hand a graphic novel representing your work to someone to give them a vibe of what a finished movie would look like than a book, 'cause it's a little less engagement and a little easier intro for the regular person that may not have the time to go through a whole novel.
And
Uh,
it's shorter.
yes, yeah,
And it's shorter,
yeah.
most importantly. So like the the one to kind of go back to your other question, the
Mm,
hardest part for me was trying to condense the content that I wanted in each comic.
hmm.
Really understanding like, okay, you can jump a little bit. We can't fill a panel with just text. Like you might as well buy the book at that point. So I
Hmm.
had to take because it is an adaptation, I had to take, conversations and I had to shorten them without kind of losing the element of this is what this character is like. And, this is what's happening. These are the important kind of, this is the meat of the conversation and still let their personality shine through their speech as well as, I had the ability to now show who they were. So that was helpful and understanding that took, a try or two.
Hmm.
But now like I said, we're kind of on a roll. I understand what's required. I understand I need to make sure I'm describing what the camera angle is for every panel. I need to be specific about what the characters look like. I need to provide reference images. I need to do this. I need to like it's just making sure that I am very specific and learning how to be that specific. Um, it took a little bit of trial and error for sure.
Well, being a creator and someone that's interested in world building, as you mentioned, um, do you find it hard to cede like some creative control of it to other people? I guess when it comes to the book, you okay the art and the coloring and everything, but like when you're relying on other people to sort of take your vision and kind of run with it, do you find that hard to let go sometimes on things like that? I know I kind of would a little bit. I think as time went on, I'd probably be better at it, but I feel like sometimes I was never the kid that worked well with others in class because I used to have to do most of the project myself. Because I wouldn't trust other people to get it done the way I'd want it to get done. So,
Yeah, and that I was kind of that kid too. So I was
mhm.
either doing everything or nothing.
Yeah.
And 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 now and I mean becoming a good delegator is not something that happens overnight either. And so what
No.
I've learned is that if it's whether or not I'm working with the right person. And
Mm,
so, I've become a little more open to like, okay, let's work on this. Let's try a few different things. And then if it's still not working out, well, then maybe I just don't have the right person for the job to kind of fill the need that I'm trying to
mhm.
accomplish. Um, and that's happened once or twice. I definitely, I'll count myself lucky in the comic book realm. Like, I lucked out finding Fran and Chandran because they've been once again great to work with, and yeah, I trust them now, and so I know that they understand what I'm going for, and they are actively trying to make sure that like I think this is what Nick is going for. This is what I'm going to make, and they do a phenomenal job. So I can't speak more highly of them. And then I lucked out with the editor that I had at my publisher, a guy by the name of John Smith. He was a joy to work with because it was a much more collaborative process. It wasn't like you have to change this, like this too long, cut it. That it was like let's let's talk this out. Let's figure out a way where we can make your project like we want to make your work shine.
Mm.
How do we make it the best it can be? And I really enjoyed working with him as well. And I think, some of the input that he had made the book much, much better. Um, so yeah, it's tough. It is a tough thing, but you learn that you just need to work at it and learn to trust people. And if it's still not working, and then maybe you just need to move on.
And the right people.
Yeah,
Oh, that's very
find the right
cool.
people. Sure.
How did the every once in a while when I talk to someone that creates that like has a career and then takes a side journey into creative endeavors, I always think of that like Simpsons. I'm not sure how deep you are in the Simpsons, but that bit where he's sitting there at dinner and he's like he just stands up and he goes, "You people have been holding me back long enough. I'm going to clown college." And they all just sort of stare at him. That line always just sort of just goes through my head, and I always thought it really funny. Like, how did the family, the parents take I'm going to go do something creative on top of whatever it is the career you're doing.
Oh, thankfully everyone in my family has been really supportive. Like
Yeah,
my wife, especially, she is kind of my biggest fan and
awesome.
also my toughest critic.
Also important to have. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I would say that's even more important.
Oh,
And
great. If
she,
someone just telling you that everything you do is fantastic, they're not helping you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's kind of funny how that came about. I didn't even know. I mean, I had like heard about it, but I hadn't even really thought about getting a beta reader. It
Hmm.
just wasn't even something that had crossed my mind at the time. But I was probably on like chapter 18 of the first book, which funny enough, I just finished chapter 18 of the second book.
Oh, nice.
But I I'm on vacation with my wife and we're we're sitting on the beach and, having a drink and I'm just typing away at the computer while I'm sitting. And she's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you still like, we're on vacation, chill out." And I was like, "This is fun for me. Like we're just sitting here.
Hmm.
Now I'm going to write." She's like, "Well, what is this thing you've been writing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm writing a book." And she said, "I know that, but like, what is it?" And so I said, "Do you want to read some of it?" And she said, "Yeah." So I sent it to her and she's reading it on her phone while I'm writing. And, 4 hours goes by and she's still reading. And she was like, "You can actually write." And I was like, "Thanks for, I think." you know, um, but then she immediately came back. She was like, "But you have to change this. This part doesn't make any sense. You lost me a little bit here. And, you know, not even as polite as that. But
Yeah, well.
but it was good. And most of her feedback was spot on.
Hmm.
You always need that second eye. So she was my first beta reader, and like I said, she tells me when it sucks.
That's awesome. Good. Well, it's good. Like you said, you need that because like you've already written like as most writing goes, you've already written the thing in your head. So when like all the little the things are all the pieces that are missing are there because in your head they're there. So like what it all takes is someone else that doesn't have that internal story that you've already written in their head to notice those things. And you take for granted information, I guess, sometimes when writing that is your own head canon and not necessarily on the page. So it's nice when you have somebody that can kind of pull the curtain back and say, hey, this doesn't make sense, or you need more information here, or it's not as easy to follow.
Definitely,
Oh, that's cool.
definitely.
So is it so you are all in on this series? You're not working in any other projects, you're just continuing on.
No, This is it right now, man. And I feel it's funny when I first started writing this, I was like, this is cathartic. This is fun. It's a good, mental exercise for me. It's a
Hmm.
creative outlet, whatever. If it doesn't turn into anything, whatever. And the deeper I got into it, suddenly like a switch flipped. I was like, this is all I'm thinking about. It just when the ideas started really coming together on paper, and the more and more I found like unique ways to either fill plot holes or like, oh, I can do this better. Like, let's do it like this. Let's
Hmm.
go back and change this, and I can allude to this happening in the future, and leaving like little breadcrumbs along the story, um, to kind of, I guess, just introduce readers to
Hmm.
certain concepts slowly. Um, I just fell in love with it. Um, so, even if I have to, you know, make the movie, video game, whatever it is myself, I'm gonna do it. It's
Yeah.
just it's become like a real passion of mine, and I feel like I've become connected to some of the characters, not just because they're creations of mine, but because I've also based a number of characters in the book and subsequently the comic book on people I know in real life, which I think adds an extra breath of life into that character. Like it makes them feel more real because when I'm writing about them, I know how that person interacts. I know them, and so I can put myself in their shoes a little bit better, I
Yeah.
feel.
And it makes the world feel more real, I guess. Like whenever you make characters that are kind of annoying or have habits, you know what I mean? Or things, and if you base them on like certain habits of people or certain things they do, it's like everyone knows people like that, or something that like I hate when you read something and everybody's cool, like or it's like
Yeah.
that's not the real world. You don't walk out your door and run into like every like, a hundred of the coolest people you've ever met all at once. Like there's always like, nerdy characters like just weird ticks, strange ways of talking, people that are a little overly boisterous, or like when you can kind of incorporate all that into unique characters, it makes it way more interesting.
And you'll see that even just with the protagonist. I mean, the
Mhm.
protagonist is not an easy person to work with. Roman's kind of he's a lone wolf, and he's definitely a little bit of like he's just extremely jaded,
Mhm.
and yet a little bombastic. Like he's he's almost like Geralt of Rivia if he was younger and less refined.
Mhm.
Like he hasn't learned all the lessons that he should have learned yet, and he's kind of a lost soul. So he's a little bit of a drunk. You definitely see that in the second episode.
Mhm.
He's not always the best person to everyone, um, but he does. I mean, when you get a little bit deeper into the text and the book goes into it in more detail, he does have a surprisingly sound moral compass, even though some of the work that he does is illegal.
Yeah, the rapscallion with a heart of gold kind of thing, right?
Kind of, yeah. So
Yeah.
he's lived a very hard life, and it's certainly created someone who has a talent for violence, but B is searching for something more,
Hmm. Well,
you know?
it's a pretty dependable archetype, The I think almost every Clint Eastwood movie has a similar vein, or any Western novel. It's like noir westerns, and like this kind of. I would argue this is a space Western pretty easily too. In some ways, you have that sort of character, that loner wanderer character that gets pulled in for a job that goes deeper than he thought, and it's always very interesting to see how they hold on to their cool factor, but also become more human, and that they care for more people. And obviously, there's a few things that allude in the first issue to tragic backstory as well, which I'm sure we'll expand upon as we get down into the series as well. So
Definitely.
yeah, no, it's super cool, it's super fun. It's like I said, it's nice to you read so much fiction, especially sci-fi, and you read a lot and you see a lot of things that are kind of in the world. It's always kind of fun to find something new and that's a little unique in its own way. So I'm
Yeah.
digging it. I'm
Well,
excited. I
Yeah,
also
absolutely.
I also have a lot of respect for people that are all in on their thing. Like it's like this is the thing, this is all I want to work on. I'm happy to do this. And like some of the writers that like write only the series is with their characters and they don't deviate too far from it. Sometimes it's cool because it's like it really I don't feel like it spreads them too thin. It's very pure. You're always in the world itself. Um, I've been reading these Dungeon Crawler Carl books. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's
Yeah, I have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's another guy that's like sort of all in on this one world and just sort of writing, continually putting out new books in this kind of this world he's built, which is pretty unique and cool in its own thing. So I did take a break. I've read the first three, but there's like seven, I think now. So I gotta like it's gonna gotta fire through to keep up with them. But it's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have like an end goal? You said seven books for this. Do you have ideas for what you want to do after you're done the seven books? Or is that are you just focused on this at the moment?
Right now, I mean, right now it's kind of, focusing on what's in front of me
Hmm.
and then always seeking new opportunities. I'm right now aiming to get a short animated film made.
Hmm.
Um, and that's, somewhere between like 5 and 15 minutes long.
Hmm.
And that is going to be kind of like my next, once again, like the next logical step in the progression of the series into getting this into new outlets of media. Um, I I enjoy sci-fi in all forms, and so I want to bring Vitalerium into sci-fi in all forms. I want to make it as available as possible because I'm having so much fun, and I've put so much work and effort into building this kind of expansive world that I just it'd be a waste not to do anything with it.
Mm. That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah.
What kind of style do you want to do the animation in?
I'm open to uh I'm open to suggestions. I don't know yet. I don't know. I would kind of like to go. I would like to have something in like that classic kind of anime style. Um,
It's funny you said that because I immediately was thinking of like Battle Angel or like oh God. The one with they made the terrible Scarlett Johansson version of it. What was that one?
the
Uh
Alita
no,
battle.
that one actually I like that one. That's the Robert Rodriguez one.
Oh, okay.
What the hell was that one? Anyway, but like Akira, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah.
it'll God, it's gonna drive me nuts. Scarlett Johansson. Uh,
They, they had an Akira exhibit at Murakami Park, not far from where I am or
really?
where I was. Yeah, that was cool. I went to that. And I bought they had this massive like anime stylings book and basically kind of showed where the inspirations came from to actually create some of the surrounding the futuristic environments.
Yeah.
So less so on the characters, but more so on like what does this world look like and where were people, where were the creators of these, Akira and Ghost in the Shell and some of
That's
these
what I
like
was thinking of.
big
That's yeah.
animes, yeah. Where did that come from? And that was cool. I still flip through that every now and again just to kind of
There's
see.
so much detail in those things. Like those movies and those the backgrounds are like
It's
um
incredible.
I haven't read like a ridiculous amount of anime. I do or manga. I do like it when I've read good ones. But like I read Pluto and I watched the Netflix show they did of it, which was actually quite good. And that has like so much detail and interesting stuff about I guess like you get into the conversation about what's life with robots, like if it's is artificial life, and is it as valuable as regular life, and
Yeah.
how we treat robots if we had them with AI, and it's a very cool series that made for a very cool version of the show as well. Well, that's super exciting. So, where are your next conventions? Where are you headed to next?
Next is Fan Expo Boston.
Hmm.
That will be the 8th through the 10th. And then I'll be doing UltraCon in West Palm Beach. That's a pretty big show in Florida.
Nice.
I'm doing Rhode Island Comic Con, going back to the old stomping ground. That's going to be that's in November. I want to say the 7th to the 9th.
Hmm.
I'm doing MegaCon next year. That's March. I forget. It's in March, but MegaCon is, that's one of the biggest in the country, I think, at
Hmm.
least in the US. They had like 140,000 attendees or something like that last
Hmm.
year.
Wow.
They're gigantic. So that I'm very excited for. I've got a lot of big things planned for that. I actually just had a couple of like really, really legit cosplay, like movie quality cosplays made.
Really?
Uh, yeah, so I had two different cosplay artists work on it. So one, her name is Shanice Foster, and she did the Monique character. And I mean, when I tell you, like, she soldered her own LEDs, like, it did everything, and created this like movie quality suit of armor that I literally have for the 3D rendered version of Monique Magni, who you guys have not run into in the comic book yet, but give it time. She's coming around. She's definitely an interesting character. And then another character who is more of a antagonistic character in the series. His name is General Darek Ferris Benson, and he is basically the acting general of the Coalition for Prosperity Guardsmen. He's the head of the ruthless army, basically. And that character I actually based on a friend of mine. He's an actor named Levon Panic. And he allowed me to use his likeness for this. He just said, "Hey, when you turn this into a movie, you better cast me as that role." And I said,
Perfect.
"Hey,
Even
man,
better.
you perfect. You got it. Now stay in shape." That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so he will actually be. So I had a suit made for a really big suit of armor made for him, and he's going to wear it next week at Boston Fan Expo with me. So he's
Wow,
going to
that's
be
awesome.
around there with me. Um, yeah, it's been a really fun process, and I'm trying to find some unique ways to just get the word out there to market it, and that was one of them. I just anytime I get an idea, I'll try anything twice. So
Well, that's it. Like it sounds like you got all of your bases covered, and one of the biggest ones I find just as someone that goes to cons and sells art and stuff. Usually, when you're beside someone that's doing creative work, like a comic or a book or something, where they have to pitch to people as they come by what it's about, and they have some kind of an elevator pitch sort of line that they give people. But when you watch that enough, you see how important it is and how it sort of builds an early engagement with people, and they kind of like the building block for the thing is even cooler because then they're cheering for you to succeed because they're there as part of the ground floor with you and your book. And if they read it, they like it, then they're gonna follow you all the way through. So
yeah.
it's awesome. Super
And
excited
so
about
I
this.
yeah, and I appreciate you gain kind of a new appreciation for the people who are in it at the ground floor, when especially when you're going to all these conventions, because, the ones who are asking the most questions are the ones who are, they're the most interested. If
Yeah,
you can deliver in terms of the content itself. And
yeah,
they're always like, so anyone who comes up to me and they're like, well, how does that work? Like, there are some people who will come up and literally like probe me, like they're trying to get me, like stump me almost. And I love that because I'm used to, being in medical sales, like I was selling to basically doctors,
Mhm.
they're smarter than me. So
Yeah.
I had to, make sure I knew my shit when I
Mhm.
was in there with them. And when it comes to this, I have put so much thought into the construction of this world. I appreciate that, and I love going back and forth with the people at these conventions. Um, it's fun. I've actually learned from people. So at one time, um, I know it hasn't really been explained yet in the comic, but Vitalerium itself is basically a novel exotic material that's not native to Earth, that is basically discovered because it crashes into a space probe, and basically it returns to Earth and brings this new passenger with it. And this exotic material is basically a never before seen element. Um, and basically it allows for interstellar travel. It basically becomes the exotic material that physicist Miguel Alcubierre talks about as a requirement for his actual like real life concept of the warp drive.
Mhm.
Basically, condensing space in front of you and elongating it behind you.
Mhm.
And this is a real paper that was put out in the 90s. And one of the things he says is required is exotic material. And so I was like, well, this is kind of my answer to that. And to basically initiate the golden age of space exploration.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of doing my spiel at the booth. And this young woman was like, what's the atomic number of Vitalerium? I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, well, you said it's an element. And you're saying this is kind of like a rendering of it, right? I was like, yeah, roughly. And she was like, well, it's a crystalline object. Like you would have to have an insanely high atomic number for that to be stable in that form. And it turns out she was a chemist.
Mhm.
And so I was like, all right, let's talk more.
Yeah, what
And
do you
I
think it should be?
I was
Yeah.
like, well, that's
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah,
happened. So
exactly.
we got into a discussion and I was like, what would it have to be? And she was like, it would have to be insanely high. It would have to be like, and I can see her like doing math in her head. And she just goes like 427. And I was like, well, guess what the atomic number of Vitalerium is from here on out? 427. So it's
That's awesome.
there's also like there are opportunities to like improve my future work and just improve, expound upon the universe that I'm creating by interacting with different people. So I really love that part of it. I have a lot of fun with it.
Well, sci-fi fans are generally, pretty discerning amongst fandoms. They want their stuff to make sense. They want their characters to feel real. They also want any of their signs to have enough explanation to make them happy. So if you can fill in those blanks, you're laughing. That's really funny. It's like having like a chemist come up to you and be like, "Hey, how does this exactly work? And here's how you could make it work." That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the online community too, though, when you get fans, because then you have resources like that, right? Like people that can come and help you then, and you fill in the blanks of the things you may not have thought about. So, all
Absolutely.
right, well, just don't get so far ahead of yourself that the TV show comes out before the books are done, and then you never write the last book.
No, I promise here and now. Promise you here and now, I will finish the books.
All
I
right.
know. I already have a good idea about how I want the series to end because I've basically grounded I ground all of the new technologies I talk about and things like that in either current physics theory or prospective physics theory. Any of the real long-term story arc things have really been grounded in kind of human philosophy. And that's given me a very clear image of how I want this series to kind of turn out.
Wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
have you studied, like, are you deep in the philosophical world? Like, do you follow?
I'm rereading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I just started. I just didn't get through it yet because it's only like a pamphlet. But the Enchiridion, I was looking at that. I'm kind of enamored with Stoicism. It seems like the best way to deal with things to me. So
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, there's something to be said about, I mean, just the way to operate. Like you can control yourself.
yeah,
That is what you can, that is what is in your control. And if you can control yourself, the outcome more likely than not will go in your favor, but just not always. Don't,
Oh yeah.
basically
Well,
don't.
I've always kind of approached my life that way too, like in the change what you can, accept what you can, and like that's seems to me the Stoicism boiled down to its simplest definition would be something along those lines. So, based on that, I think that's the philosophical bend for me. But I do like studying it and going through it. So it's cool that you've sort of went into that and then approaching that into your sci-fi. So
Yeah.
awesome, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, man. This has been really fun. Eh?
I've had a lot of fun too.
Awesome,
Thanks for
cool.
having me.
I'll drop you a line when it's out.
Absolutely.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
There you have it, my conversation with Nick Casbarro. A great chat with a cool dude doing some expansive work. Make sure to check out the book series, the comic adaptations, and all the other things he has in store for Vitalerium, which is very cool. Very, very cool project. Also, be sure to tune in next week to my conversation with Dakota Brown. Also a great conversation. And a guy doing some really cool stuff out there, mostly through writing. But we do get into some deep conversations about acting, which is something he's been a part of for a long time as well. So it's very much an actor's show. So if you're into acting, you like acting, you appreciate the craft, you appreciate improv and all of that stuff. Dakota's been involved in that in a very, very long time, aside from the work he's done in the comic field. So great conversation for that. So get out there, enjoy the nature you can enjoy, your backyard, stuff like that. If you're in my area, if you're not, then appreciate the fact you can go into the woods and the trails and take advantage, get out there and do it, because you never know. Something like this could come up. It could be dangerous for you to do so for everyone in your area, and you might not be able to for a while. So if you're able to, go do it. Enjoy nature, listen to the birds, smell the flowers, and enjoy. In the meantime, stay safe, have fun, and if you're in Nova Scotia, stay out of the woods. Just stay out of the woods. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.